Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking you back to well, probably one of the most famous locations in tabletop history.
Oh, absolutely. The keep on the borderland,
Yeah, the keep. Specifically, we're pulling out the map for the Caves of Chaos.
which is just a legendary, meat grinder of a dungeon.
Right. But we're not going through the whole thing today. We're zooming all the way in on just one section, Area I.
The caves of the Minotaur.
Yes.
And honestly, I think this is one of my absolute favorite examples of early game design
Uh-huh.
because it takes this classic trope, right? The bullheaded man in a maze.
The classic myth, yeah.
Yeah, but it twists it into something genuinely psychological.
That is exactly the vibe I got reading through the B2 source material for this. Because you think, okay, Minotaur, Labyrinth, I get it. I roll initiative, I hit the thing.
Right, a standard boss fight.
Exactly. But this isn't just a combat encounter. The designer here, Gary Gygax, he built a machine.
A literal trap.
Yeah, a machine designed to disorient and confuse and really just panic the people sitting at the table.
Yeah.
Not just the characters, the actual players.
It creates this profound sense of paranoia. Because the mission of this specific cave isn't just to house a big monster. It's meant to drain your resources.
Like your health and your torches.
Health, light sources, and most importantly, your trust in your own senses. It does all of that before funneling you toward an apex predator who's way smarter than you are.
So let's actually walk through this trap step by step. So imagine you're the adventurer. You've been clearing out kobolds or orcs in the lower caves. You're feeling confident.
Probably a little overconfident.
Usually, yeah. So you walk up to the entrance of the Minotaur's lair. What's the very first thing you see?
This is where the psychological game starts right away. The text describes the cave mouth, and scattered on the ground, you just see garbage.
Just trash.
Yeah, like low-value coins, maybe some dented armor, rusted weapons.
Yeah.
Just debris.
Which, if you're a seasoned player, that usually signals one of two things, right? Either someone died here and the killer didn't care about the loot.
Right.
Or, the place is totally abandoned.
Exactly. It looks exactly like the aftermath of a battle that happened weeks ago.
Yeah.
But the source material is explicitly clear here. This is bait.
Bait.
The Minotaur is highly intelligent. He's not a mindless beast. He intentionally tosses this unwanted loot at the entrance. It acts as a filter.
What do you mean by a filter?
Well, it lures you in. It makes you stop right at the thresholds and lower your guard. Your party stops to argue over who gets the copper pieces or the rusty helmet.
I see.
And while you're distracted, it draws you right into the kill box.
And once you step inside, the map says it's about 30 feet in, right?
30 feet exact.
The real trap springs. And I love this part because it's not a pit trap. It's not falling rocks or a tripwire.
No, it's completely invisible.
It's the direction confusion spell.
Yes, in my opinion, this is one of the most diabolical mechanics in the entire Keep on the Borderlands module.
Hands down.
The moment you cross that invisible line, 30 feet in, the text says the characters feel, quote, slightly dizzy, and they just lose all sense of direction.
Let's unpack this for a second. Because for a modern audience, people who are used to video game mini-maps or playing on a virtual tabletop where everything is perfectly laid out.
The fog of war just lifts for them automatically.
Right. They might not realize how brutal this is, because in the era this was written, the mapper was a crucial job at the table.
Oh, absolutely. You had one player sitting there with graph paper and a pencil, drawing the dungeon exactly as the dungeon master described it.
10 feet north, turn east, 20 feet.
Yeah, that map was your lifeline. If the map was wrong, you couldn't find the exit.
And this spell just completely weaponizes that mechanic.
It completely destroys it. The source explicitly instructs the dungeon master to lie to the players.
Which is wild.
It is. It's breaking the fourth wall. Normally, the DM is the objective narrator of reality. But here, if the party says, we're walking north, and the corridor actually curves northeast,
The DM just looks them in the eye.
looks them dead in the eye and says, you are walking southeast.
That is literally gaslighting as a game mechanic.
It really is.
Yeah.
And think about the chaos that causes at the table. The mapper physically draws a line southeast. But in the game reality, they're going northeast.
So they're drawing a map that bears zero resemblance to the actual physical dungeon.
None at all. They think they're heading toward the exit, but they're walking deeper into the lair.
And you just inherently trust the DM. If they say southeast, you draw southeast. So is there any way for you to realize you're being duped? Or are you just doomed to walk in circles until you run out of rations?
There's a failsafe, but it's really slim. The text notes that the DM rolls a secret saving throw.
Secret, so you don't even know what's happening.
Exactly. And it's only for the mapping character, not the whole party. They need to roll a natural 19 or 20 on a 20-sided die.
That's just a 10% chance.
A 10% chance to shake off the dizziness and go, wait a minute, the draft is blowing the wrong way, or this angle doesn't feel right. And if they fail...
If they fail, they just keep confidently drawing the wrong map.
So you get this labyrinth effect without the designer actually needing to draw a massive convoluted maze on the page. The confusion spell does all the heavy lifting.
Exactly.
You're disoriented, your map is garbage, and your party is probably bickering about which way is north.
Which creates noise.
Right.
It creates a massive distraction. And that is when the ecosystem of this cave kicks in. Because these hallways aren't just empty waiting rooms for the boss.
They're alive.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the neighbors, because if you're stumbling around dizzy and arguing, you're gonna bump into things. The first layer of defense here is Area 42, the Sturges.
Oh man, the Sturges. They are a classic nuisance monster, but in this specific setup, they are lethal.
Paint the picture for us. What exactly is a Sturge?
Imagine a horrific cross between a bat, a bird, and a giant mosquito.
Disgusting.
Truly. They're about the size of a house cat. They have feathers and leathery wings. But the defining feature is this long, needle-like proboscis they use for sucking blood. And there isn't just one in this cave.
No, there are 13 of them.
13. And the action economy, like who has more attacks, is everything in these games. 13 attacks against a party of 4 or 5 people, that's a swarm.
It's totally overwhelming. And mechanically, they're terrifying for low-level characters. The source says they attack with a +2 bonus to hit.
Because they're fast.
Fast and erratic, they dart around, they're hard to swat, and once they hit you, they attach.
Like a tick. They lock on.
They grapple you, and once they're attached, they don't even need to roll to hit anymore. They just drain your blood automatically.
Oh, wow.
The text specifies they drain 1 to 4 hit points of blood every single round. And they don't stop until either you die or you manage to kill the Sturge.
Let's put that in perspective. A level 1 wizard, they might have, 3 or 4 hit points total?
If they're lucky, yeah.
Yeah.
So 1 Sturge attaches in round 1. By the end of that round, the wizard is unconscious or dead.
And a fighter might last 2 rounds.
Maybe. With 13 of them swarming you out of the dark, a party can get wiped out in seconds if they aren't ready for it.
But there's a really interesting narrative detail here. Why are these things hanging out in a minotaur's hallway? Are they his pets?
Not exactly. They're tenants, but they're terrified tenants. The module reveals this grim ecological detail. The minotaur actually considers Sturges a delicacy.
He eats them.
We eats them.
So this monster that can kill your wizard in 6 seconds is hiding from the bigger monster down the hall.
Exactly. These 13 lethal bloodsuckers are huddled in the crevices, explicitly hiding from their landlord. And because they're hungry and scared, the text says there's a 90% chance they are, quote, squeaking and hooting.
So the game is actually giving you fair warning.
If you're listening.
Yeah.
But this loops right back to the confusion spell. If your party is standing in the dark arguing, I thought we went north. No, the DM said east. You're going to miss that audio cue.
You're distracted, you're loud, and you walk face first into an ambush.
That is the synergy of the trap. The psychological confusion leaves you entirely open to the physical attack.
Okay, so let's say you miraculously survive the bloodsuckers. You push deeper into the dark, and you find Area 43, the fire beetles.
Right, the fire beetles. Now, these are less of a combat threat compared to the Sturges, but they serve a really specific purpose in the dungeon's resource economy.
They're big, right?
Giant beetles, about 2.5 feet long. They have a really tough shell, giving them an armor class of 4.
Which is like hitting a tank at that level.
It is, and they're aggressive. But the interesting part isn't the fight itself. It's what happens when you kill them.
Because usually you don't loot insects. You kill a giant spider, you don't search its pockets.
Right. But these beetles are a walking utility item. The fire beetle has 3 glands, 2 above its eyes and 1 in its abdomen, and they naturally glow red.
Okay.
The biology of the setting dictates that if you kill the beetle and carefully carve out these glands, they continue to glow for 1 to 6 days.
Providing a 10-foot radius of red light.
Essentially, yes. It's a torch that never burns out, it doesn't produce any smoke, and crucially, it works underwater.
That almost feels like a video game mechanic, like picking up a glowing item so you can see in the dark cave.
It does, but it's deeply rooted in resource management. Think about it. If you've been wandering around this maze for hours because your map is ruined, your actual torches are burning out, your lamp oil is gone.
Pitch black.
Suddenly, harvesting these gross, glowing organs from a bug becomes a strict matter of survival.
It sets such a visceral, gritty tone. You're battered, you're lost, you're covered in sturge bites, and now you're holding a severed insect gland just to see the next horror coming at you.
It's grim. It's perfectly grim.
So we've navigated the confusion spell, dodged the sturges, harvested the beetles. Now we have to face the master of the house. Area 45. The minotaur.
The apex predator. And I really cannot stress enough how much of a difficulty spike this is. Oh yeah, in a lot of early modules, a monster is just a beast.
Yeah.
It has claws, it bites, it operates on raw instinct. But the description here paints a very different picture.
He's not just a naked guy with a cow head standing in an empty room.
No, he is geared for war. The text specifically notes he wears a greatcoat of chainmail.
Wow.
That gives him an armor class of 4. For context, that makes him as hard to hit as a fully armored human knight. You need a really good roll just to scratch him.
And he's armed, right?
He wields a spear +1, a magical weapon.
Which is a huge deal. That means he's hitting more often, and he's dealing damage that bypasses certain magical defenses.
Exactly. And the source explicitly details his combat tactics. He doesn't just stand there and trade blows with the fighter. He opens the fight with a charge.
The classic bull rush.
He rushes forward with that magical spear. And because of his immense physical strength and the momentum of the charge, the damage is catastrophic. The text lists it as dealing an extra 6 points of damage on top of the base weapon damage.
So we're looking at, what, 4 to 9 points of damage on the opening hit?
At least.
Again, looking at the math, a wizard has 4 hit points. A thief has maybe 6. That charge is an instant guaranteed kill. No death saving throws, you're just dead.
It's a highly distinct possibility, and after that opening charge, he gets even nastier. He drops the spear and switches to biting and goring with his horns.
2 attacks per round?
Yep. So he impales your frontline fighter, then he just starts mauling you.
And the terrain is entirely his ally. We talked about the confusion spell at the entrance. Does that affect him at all?
Not even a little bit. He is totally immune. He knows every single twist and turn of Area I. The text actually emphasizes that he uses the spell to his advantage. He knows that if you try to flee, you're going to get turned around.
So he just herds you.
He herds you right into a dead end. Imagine the absolute horror of that. You realize you're losing the fight, you shout retreat, you run down the hallway you think is the exit.
You hit a solid stone wall.
And right behind you in the dark, you hear chainmail rattling and hooves charging down the corridor.
It induces a genuine state of panic at the table. It's a slaughterhouse.
It really is. The source notes that your escape options are incredibly bleak. You can try to sprint out the front door, assuming you can even find it, and maybe climb a tree outside to escape it. Or there is a secret door.
Ah, the secret door. This brings us to the part of the deep dive that really surprised me. Because up until now, this is essentially a horror story about a monster in a hole. But it turns out the Minotaur is part of a political network.
He is. Area 45, which is his living quarters, connects via a secret door to Area H. And Area H is the lair of the bugbears.
And bugbears, for context, are big, hairy goblinkin. They are tough customers in their own right. So why aren't they fighting the Minotaur for territory?
Because they have a treaty, an actual formal alliance. Yeah, the source details a contract between them. It operates basically like a protection racket. The Minotaur agrees to help defend the bugbears against any heavy invaders. If a strong party attacks the bugbear caves, the Minotaur flanks them as the heavy hitter.
So he's their enforcer, the local muscle. And what does he get in return? Cut of the gold. Gems.
No. He gets food.
Oh, no.
Specifically, the bugbears provide the Minotaur with 1 human slave every 3 days.
That is incredibly dark.
It really highlights the Minotaur's carnivorous nature. He isn't eating grass or subterranean mushrooms. He eats people, and the bugbears are acting as his supply chain.
It makes the entire dungeon feel like this living, breathing, horrible community. These aren't just random monsters waiting in a vacuum for 100 years until adventurers show up.
Right, they have a schedule. They conduct trade.
It adds so much tactical depth to the game. If you're exploring and you stumble upon this secret door, you might think, oh great, an escape route. But you might actually just be interrupting a slave transfer.
Exactly. Or consider the inverse. Say you decide to attack the bugbears first, thinking they're an easier fight than a Minotaur.
Makes sense.
But suddenly you find the Minotaur hitting your backline because he's honoring his defense contract.
So the game actively punishes you for not understanding the local politics. If you just kick down doors and roll dice, you trigger the alliance.
Precisely.
Mhm.
It turns the dungeon into an interconnected ecosystem rather than just a sequence of isolated rooms.
Okay, let's say against all odds you do it. You beat the dizziness, you survive the sturges, you grab the beetle flashlight, and you actually manage to take down the minotaur. What is the payout? Because a boss this tough has to have a serious hoard.
Oh, the hoard is massive. But, true to form, Gary Gygax makes you work for it, even after the boss is dead.
Of course he does.
The treasure isn't just sitting in a pile on the floor, it's hidden.
Where?
It's tucked behind a massive stone slab right in the Minotaur's living area. And the source explicitly says, moving this slab requires the combined physical strength of 3 humans. Or, if your party is actively searching for a hidden mechanism, you need a very lucky roll. A 1 on a 6-sided die to find the trick to opening it.
So you could do everything right, kill the monster, and still walk away totally empty-handed if you aren't incredibly thorough.
Absolutely. But if you do get that slab open, it is a jackpot.
What are we looking at? Give me the inventory.
First, you have the raw currency. There's a chest containing 930 gold pieces, plus some electrum and expensive jewelry that could be worth up to 1,600 gold pieces.
That is a staggering fortune for a low-level party. That's like buy a ship or build your own keep money.
It is. But it's a chest in a dungeon.
Right. I assume I shouldn't just stick my hands in there.
You definitely shouldn't. The lock has a poison needle trap. If your thief fails to detect and disarm it, you could survive the Minotaur's charge only to die trying to open his wallet.
Classic D&D. But the real prize in this stash isn't the gold, is it?
No, it's the magic items. This hoard contains items that can completely define the rest of a campaign. First up, a staff of healing.
Oh, wow. For a battered party, that is an absolute lifeline.
It's crucial. It means you don't have to retreat all the way back to the keep every single time someone takes a hit. It drastically extends your ability to stay out in the wild and adventure.
Go else.
There's a suit of plate mail +1. The text carefully notes it fits a man-sized or elf-sized character.
Top-tier armor.
It makes whoever puts it on almost as hard to hit as the Minotaur was.
And I saw mention of a coffer in the notes.
With potions.
Yes. A locked coffer containing 3 specific potions. A potion of gaseous form, a potion of healing, and a potion of growth.
Growth.
It temporarily makes you giant-sized. Imagine your fighter chugging that before grappling with an ogre in the next cave over. It effectively doubles your physical damage output.
And gaseous form. That seems particularly ironic given the trap we spent the first half of this deep dive discussing. It really is. If you drink gaseous form, you turn into mist. You don't have to walk the maze, you can just float right under the doors. It completely negates the physical barriers of the labyrinth.
So the rewards here are perfectly mechanically tailored to help you survive the deeper, darker parts of the Caves of Chaos.
You just have to earn them first.
You really do. So putting this all together, you walk into a cave. The dungeon immediately gaslights you about which way is north. You get drained by vampire birds. You have to harvest glowing organs from giant beetles just to see. You get charged by a chainmail-wearing, spear-wielding genius cowman. And if you somehow survive all that, you find out he was eating humans supplied by a neighbor's protection racket.
That is the Caves of the Minotaur in a nutshell.
So stepping back from the mechanics, what's the so what here? What does Area actually teach us about effective encounter design?
I think the biggest takeaway is that combat shouldn't just be about trading hit points and comparing armor classes. It's about the environment. The Direction Confusion spell turns a mathematically standard fight into absolute panic. It actively disorients the actual players sitting around the table, not just the characters written on their character sheets.
It attacks the metagame.
It does. It forces the players to question their own tools and their own map. And then the alliance with the bugbears shows that a dungeon shouldn't be a static place. It's an interconnected community. The monsters talk to each other. They trade. They rely on each other.
It makes the world feel incredibly dangerous in a way that just rolling a random encounter die doesn't capture. It feels alive.
Precisely. It forces you to think, to map carefully, to actually listen at doors, and to understand the politics of the place you're invading.
It's just brilliant stuff. You know, looking at that Bugbear Alliance one more time, it raises a really provocative question for me to end on.
What's that?
Well, the Minotaur works for food. 1 human slave every 3 days. That is the binding contract.
Right.
So what happens if you disrupt that supply chain? Let's say your party goes into Area H and wipes out the bugbears. Or you free the slaves, But you leave the minotaur alone because he's just too tough to fight right now.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
He gets hungry, the contract is broken, and his food stops showing up. Does a hungry, contract-broken minotaur turn on his neighbors? Does he go hunting in the other monster lairs? Or does he leave the cave entirely?
That is a terrifying thought.
Does he come hunting for you outside the caves? Because now your party is the only source of food he knows about.
A wandering minotaur with a magic spear and heavy chainmail actively tracking you through the wilderness at night, that is an entire campaign hook waiting to happen.
It sure is. And that's all the time we have for this deep dive into the caves of the Minotaur. Thanks for listening, and remember, check your map, trust your gut, and maybe bring a piece of chalk. You might need it.
And watch out for the sturges.
We'll see you next time.